I asked you guys to send me your bold predictions for the upcoming San Jose Sharks season. I compiled a whole bunch of them right here, and today I'm going to react to what you guys said. Some of them were very bold predictions, and some of them were a little bit safer, so we're going to take a look at a whole bunch of them here and see what I think. So, starting off the top here, Mega D-Man 321 says, the team crashes out early, Warsofsky's fired, and the team makes the Western Conference Finals. So this one's a little weird because I feel like it's a little contradicting itself. The team crashes out early. I mean, that's certainly possible. Last year, the Sharks probably overperformed a bit, 86 points. I see them taking a bit of an improvement from that, but it wouldn't shock me if they crash out early. Warsofsky's fired. I would have to imagine he's going to get till the end of the season at the very least. I don't see us firing him. I mean, unless the team's like a complete disaster. I mean, if they're on pace for like 60 points or something midway through the year, then maybe he's fired. But I see Greer giving him a longer leash than a year and a half. And the team makes the Western Conference Finals. If they're firing Warsofsky, there's no way they're making the Western Conference Finals, man. This team would have to be like a dumpster fire to fire Warsofsky. There's no way they would then make the playoffs and then make the Western Conference Finals. That's like a less than a 1% chance, in my opinion. Next up, We Be Steady Moblin says, Collin Graf will score less than 10 goals and spend most of the season on the fourth line. This wouldn't shock me. Collin Graf was a 20-goal scorer last year. He's a good player. He's a dependable player who can play wherever in the lineup. If he is stapled to the fourth line for most of the year, it wouldn't shock me that he scores less than 10 goals. Ideally, this is probably like a middle six player who puts up 15 to 20 goals in his prime, but if he's playing lower in the lineup and plays on the penalty kill a lot, I could see him getting less than 10 goals, especially because we do have a logjam on forward right now. There's no doubt. I don't think Collin Graf's really going to be the odd man out. I think he's going to play quite a bit, but it's not impossible he gets fewer than 10 goals. I think that's not crazy unrealistic. Reflux Shiro, not sure how you say that. Celebrini and Misa cement themselves as a 1-2 punch like Crosby and Malkin. The Sharks will make the playoffs as the second place finish in the Pacific with 101 points on the season. They'll make it to the finals, but lose to the Devils in 5 games. Okay, so starting off here, Celebrini and Misa, Crosby and Malkin. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the Sharks want from those two players in the long run, and Celebrini's already there. Is Misa going to be like an Evgeny Malkin type player? Is he going to be able to be the number 2 on the 1-2 punch? I don't know. I don't think it's crazy unrealistic. I don't know if Misa's 19-year-old season is necessarily going to be there, but yeah, that's what they want from him long term for sure. The Sharks will make the playoffs as the second place in the Pacific with 101 points on the season. That's a little bold, but it is a bold prediction, so it makes sense. I don't really see them getting 100 points. If they make the playoffs, I would imagine it'll be 90-something points, but 101 points, is that impossible? I would say definitely not. They make it to the finals, but lose to the Devils in 5 games. I don't know if the Sharks making the finals or the Devils making the finals would be more unrealistic. I guess the Sharks, but boy, that would be weird if there's a reunion and Timo Meier plays the Sharks in the finals in 2027. That would be very bizarre. So certainly a bold prediction there. Elemental says the Sharks will be a top 2 spot in the Pacific as the trade deadline approaches and trade for whatever big fish D is available. So basically, this person's saying we're going to trade for like a really high-end number 1 defenseman at the trade deadline. And the cost will be basically the equivalent of like 4 first-round picks. Beasted maybe not exactly first-round pick value at this point, but I don't know, man. That's bold. That's very, very bold. I don't think it really makes sense for the Sharks' timeline to trade that much of their future for a player like that. I mean, Dickinson, Chernyshov, Beasted kind of whatever, and 2027 first. I guess I could see that if we're like easily in a playoff position and we're thinking that pick is going to be like mid-20s or something like that, then maybe. I don't know. It depends on their age. Hughes would be purely a rental. I mean, the thought is that he's going to be going to, well, unless, do you mean Luke Hughes or Quinn Hughes? I guess that depends. Quinn Hughes, again, there's no way that would happen. Luke Hughes, I guess, but I don't really see why the Devils would trade Luke Hughes, and I don't think it makes sense to give up that much for him. So I guess you meant Quinn Hughes, but I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he's leaving Minnesota, and I certainly don't think we would want to trade for him. So Werenski, again, could make some sense, but he's on the older side. That's a lot to give up. I would not do that. I don't think I would want to give up that much for him. He's worth that amount, I guess, but I don't think it makes sense for the Sharks' timeline. And then you say there could be a lesser deal like Vince Dunn and something like Bstad plus a 2027 first. I don't know if that gets it done for Vince Dunn. Done for done. But yeah, I mean, trading for a player like that, I think that's maybe a little more realistic. Not like a bona fide one of the best defensemen in the league or anything like that. But all right, Tim T 1285. Misa pops off and cements himself as the 2C that teams dream about. Misa also puts up 70 plus points. So yeah, I think a breakout season's coming for Misa. I think like 60 to 65 points is realistic for him this year. That's obviously a pretty ideal scenario, and you're saying maybe even higher than that, like 70 plus. That's a lot to ask for a 19-year-old, but he was a number 2 overall draft pick. He's going to have a lot of players to help on his line. Should have a good supporting cast there. I don't think this is impossible. I think that's a realistic, bold prediction. Slosh darn it. LSW ends up playing more NHL games than Cags or Polkamp. So the only way this comes true is if the Sharks either play Nolan Allen a lot to start the year, which I don't think they're going to do, or they sign someone before the start of the season. And Shang Peng certainly thinks the Sharks are going to do that. Shang often knows what he's talking about, so wouldn't be shocking. But if we do have a hole there, probably Kenyoni is going to be taking that spot. And then I don't think Celine Wallenius would just have the room, like how much time left in the season he would have to make up the NHL games to cash Cags or Polkamp. So only reason I see that happening is if LSW gets like an early call up because he's amazing in the AHL, and Cags and Polkamp don't make the team out of camp. JML says Eric Polkamp will make the big show and have immediate impact. It's not impossible. I think Cags would make it in front of Polkamp. Cags has played in the NHL before. He's had a lot of pro experience already. Very good at running a power play, which the Sharks need. Polkamp, he's been very, very good at Denver, but I don't think they would call him up immediately. I think he might be a mid or a late season call up, and he could have an immediate impact when he does come up. So maybe that is what you're saying, is he will make the big show later in the year, and when he does, he'll have an immediate impact. I could see that being true. David Reed, Macklin gets over 100 assists. Okay, I love Celebrini. He is amazing. Only 2 players in the last 30 years have gotten over 100 assists in a season, and it was Kucherov and McDavid in the 23-24 seasons. It's bold, man. I don't know. I think Macklin can get there in his prime. He can do it. Is he going to do it at age 20? I don't know, man. I think he's more likely to do it 5 years from now when we have an amazing cast of players around him. And Will Smith is also putting up 100 points, and Chernyshov's putting up 90 points on his line than right now. Ah, man, it would be like a 99th percentile season for him if he puts up 100 assists and gets his 40 goals or whatever. I don't know. Jake says, I think the Sharks improve significantly as a team, but Celebrini ends up with 95 points. Okay, so opposite end of the spectrum here. Look, again, this is one where I feel like the terms of this kind of contradict each other. I guess when you say the Sharks improve significantly as a team, you're referring to the other players, but if Celebrini only ends up with 95 points, there's no way the Sharks are finishing with more than mid-80s points, maybe upper 80s if the other players really pop off. But Celebrini was the heart and soul of this team last year, man. And if he's only getting 95 points, especially only 57 assists, I do not see the Sharks improving significantly as a team. It's possible Celebrini regresses next year, but I think a regression for him would be low 100s points, not in the 90s. That, to me, is probably unrealistic. All right, Dark Tooth says a couple things. The Sharks start slow and Warsofsky gets fired. I can see them starting slowly. I don't think it's too likely, but it's certainly possible. And I mentioned earlier, probably not too likely Warsofsky gets fired before the end of the season. The Graf versus Toffoli top 9 question ends up being moot because Warsofsky leans on his vets and one of Chernyshov or Stenberg spends significant time in the AHL. Okay, I think Stenberg's going to be in the NHL. He's the most NHL-ready player of the 2026 draft. I think he's going to be playing in the NHL full-time. He'll probably get some rest days, some dev days, whatever they call him, but I think he's going to be playing in the league the whole year. Chernyshov in the AHL does scare me, and I think you might be right about that the Sharks have a logjam on forward, and even though Chernyshov is very much qualified to be playing in the top 6 in the NHL right now, well, he's waivers exempt, so got to put him in the AHL and play Delandria and play Goodrow and play all these other players. That would not be my choice, but I think that's actually not a terrible prediction, and Chernyshov might start in the AHL, which would upset me greatly, and you'd be hearing about it on this channel. Moy Moy says, the Sharks finish second in the division above either the Oilers or the Knights. So I think the consensus among Sharks fans who are hoping to make the playoffs next year is that they would finish third in the division behind those two teams, the Oilers and the Golden Knights. If they finish ahead of one of them, I think it would... It's hard for me to not see the Golden Knights winning the division. They weren't amazing in the regular season last year, but they dealt with injuries, and then the playoffs, of course, they were amazing. They made it to the Cup Finals. So I think if they're going to finish second in the division, it would be ahead of the Oilers. I don't think it's impossible. It's a little bold, man. I don't know. Again, the whole bold predictions things, I get it. But the Oilers, as flawed as they are as a team, the Sharks are also very flawed and very inexperienced, kind of by design at this point. I don't see this happening, but it's certainly not impossible. I mean, it's probably, again, like top 10% of outcomes, but it's not completely unrealistic. Shark Teal says 4 different things. 1, Smith gets 100 points this season. That's a little generous, I think. Even, again, in his prime, you're hoping this guy's like a 95, 100-point player playing on Macklin's wing. Is he going to do it at age 21? I don't know. It's not impossible, but I think probably more realistic for Smith next year is like point per game. Nurse has a career year in points. This is possible, and that's because we do not know what our power play is going to look like next year. Right now, it's looking like we're just going to have Cagnoni run the first unit, or we're going to do like 5 forwards, and what could be possible is we tell Darnell Nurse, who has played on the power play a little bit in his career, it's not really been his specialty, but he is an offensive defenseman. We put him on our first power play, we send him out there, and he gets like 50-plus points easy. I mean, it's not impossible. Maybe not the most likely, but we do have a hole on our power play. Kesselring becomes the Sharks' #1 defenseman. I don't know about that. I think beating out Nurse and Trouba or Orlov to be the #1 defenseman on the Sharks. Look, Kesselring's a good player, and if he plays like he did in Utah, then he's going to be very valuable, and he's going to be one of our best defensemen for sure. Don't know if he's going to be like leading the defenseman in ice time, though. Finally, Askarov will be a top 10 goalie in the league. Look, Askarov has potential. He has potential to become a top 10 goalie in the league. It would be a heck of a turnaround from last year, though, because to be frank, he was probably a bottom 10 goaltender in the league last year, and I hate to say it because, you know, all the qualifiers that come with Askarov. He's young. He had the amazing November. He had a bad defense playing in front of him. But at the end of the day, there were a lot of soft goals given up last year, and he's going to need to clamp down on a lot of those if he wants to be a top 10 goalie in the league. He has the skills to do it. He has the talent to do it. It's a lot to put it all together, though, at a young age, and I don't know if he's going to get there next year. J. Ken says, Stenberg immediately eclipses Eklund's highest point total in his first season as a Shark, in large part due to the Sharks running 5 forwards on the power plays. They cannot find a defenseman to properly anchor the top unit. Okay, so, yeah, Stenberg would basically need to get 60-ish points to eclipse Eklund. It's possible. I don't think it's too likely he's going to do that as an 18-year-old, but is he going to have talent playing around him? Yes. Is he going to play at least in the middle 6, probably in the top 6 for a lot of the year? Yes. So he's going to have a lot of talent around him. It's possible. I don't think it would be because of the Sharks running 5 forwards on the power play. I think if they do that, that's more going to benefit like a Celebrini and a Smith, the guys that are like really running things. Celebrini is going to like really be running the power play if they're on 5 forward, which is possible. I don't know if it's going to impact Stenberg's point total that much, so yeah, I kind of could see the first part happening. I think that's not like totally unrealistic, but the second part, I don't know if that's going to be the cause. I don't know how to say that. Priusen Blau 8695, sorry about that, says Askey is going to be a fantastic, albeit occasionally shaky goalie once he settles into the season. Smith gets close to point per game, and we're sweeping Vegas. Okay, so starting with Askarov, talked about this earlier. I think the parentheses are probably doing a little bit of heavy lifting here. He's probably going to be shaking next year, but last year I think there were more downs than there were ups for Askarov, and if there's more ups than downs this upcoming year, then look out, because he's on a good trajectory. Smith gets close to a point per game. I mean, he was already close to a point per game last year, so I don't think that's even really a bold take. I think he's going to be a point per game player next year. And we're sweeping Vegas. Yeah, that's a bold take. That is very, very bold. Infinity says the Sharks have 4 players over 60 points. So this is an interesting one because if these guys are healthy, Celebrini's getting 60. Smith is getting 60. Misa, you hope, gets 60 if he is our 2C the whole year. So then we need a 4th. Is it going to be a defenseman? Probably not. Chernyshov has a chance if he's playing in the NHL all here. Marchment, if he stays healthy, would have a chance, especially if he's playing on the top line. Wenberg had a career year last year. He's probably not going to replicate it and get too close to 60. Toffoli would be a bit of a stretch. Stenberg, it's possible if he's just on fire out of the gate. I probably personally see the Sharks having 3 players with more than 60 points, but probably a lot between like 45 and 60. We might have like several with between that many. So not impossible. It's a little bold, but I don't think it's unrealistic. Rick and MC Gaming says Dickinson will look like a true 1D next year. So look, I think I've complained on here before that people put like a ceiling on Dickinson and they're like, oh, he was drafted, what was it, like 11th overall? But no, I don't think he has a ceiling as a top pairing defenseman. He's more of a middle pairing guy. And it's like, dude, like any defenseman that gets drafted in the top like 20, their ceiling is a top pairing. Okay, there's no way you can't tell me that Dickinson's ceiling isn't top pairing. That said, is he going to get there next year as a 20-year-old after last year he was a bottom pairing defenseman and he was really kind of a shaky bottom pairing defenseman who probably shouldn't have been playing as often as he did from a pure, like, did he deserve it standpoint. He was not bad last year by any means, but he was a teenager playing fairly significant minutes with an already shaky defensive core around him. I mean, it was a tough spot to be in. Is he going to go from that to being a number 1 defenseman next year? I find it very unlikely, but 3 or 4 years from now, I don't think it's unrealistic. Jax Xander says Darnell Nurse will be the best Sharks defenseman since EK65. Erik Karlsson, oh man, Erik Karlsson, 100-point Erik Karlsson, the best defenseman since him. So I'm thinking, who have we had since him who would qualify? Orlov has been very good. Wallman was really good for the 2/3 of the season we had him. Can Darnell Nurse eclipse those players? It's possible. He's not really a Dmitry Orlov type, so he would potentially bring more offense to his game and be like a 45, 50-point player, ideally. Will we get that from him? I don't know. I like this, though. I think this is like a fair, bold prediction. Can he be like if he can be like a Jake Wallman type player, I think that would qualify. Finally, the last bold prediction I have for us today is from Shark Chaos Probably. And there's a few things here. So first off, Lynn gets dealt at the deadline for a big name acquisition. Verhoff doesn't get touched. Chernyshov ends the year on the first line. And Collin Graf is a Selke finalist. Okay, so starting from the top, Lynn gets dealt at the deadline for a big name acquisition. Not impossible. Probably, if we're trading someone like Ryan Lynn, I think it's going to be for someone who's sticking around and not for like a rental, because probably not too smart to mortgage our future like that on a rental when we're like still kind of exiting the rebuild here. If we're able to trade him for a different young defenseman who could be under control for a little while and grow with the team, then sure. I don't know if there's any teams that will be willing to do that for Ryan Lynn. Depends how he does this year, I guess. And honestly, if he does really well this year, I'd personally rather probably just keep him. But that's just me. But yeah, it's not impossible. Cherney ends the year on the first line. I mean, he ended last year on the first line. So I don't think this is too bold. He could start the year on the first line, to be honest. He's a heck of a player, and he plays really well with Celebrini. Granted, who doesn't? But I could see a Chernyshov being like a 60-point plus player playing on the first line the whole year. Not impossible. Finally, Collin Graf is a Selke finalist. Look, I love Collin Graf. He's an awesome, awesome player. I think he will probably be a Selke contender in his career. I don't know if he's going to get there in year 2, like his full second year of being in the league. But I like it. It's bold. It's very bold. I don't think it's impossible. It's, again, don't know if it usually goes to players that are young, that early in the league. But sure, why not? That's a bold prediction. It's not impossible. Why not? That does it, guys. Thank you so much for everyone who submitted your bold predictions. I didn't quite get to all of them. There were a few that kind of like overlapped and repeated. A lot of people talking about Askarov. A lot of people talking about Darnell Nurse. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a lot of fun. I love doing these, kind of predicting what the Sharks will do next year and hearing what you guys think and hearing high expectations, low expectations, everywhere in between. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope to do another one of these soon, some sort of hot take, bold prediction things, and I'll see you guys in the next video.